recently spoke to an e-commerce brand owner who was doing over $157,000 per month with Google Ads alone, yet he complained about getting more cold traffic from Google. And this kind of left me scratching my head. I mean, this was a brand that did 6 figures per month according to Google Ads, so I really had no idea what this guy was talking about. However, it wasn't until I actually opened up his Google Ads account and really dove deep into it until I realized what was going on beyond the scenes. So let's dive into this brand together as a full-on Google Ads audit so you can see exactly how I go about looking at Google Ads accounts for e-commerce brands, how I find problems for them, and most important of all, how you can use this process to kind of find out the problems that your own e-commerce brand is facing with Google and how you can fix them to scale to the very next level. Now, this is the brand right here. It is a fashion brand that is based in the UK, so everything here in terms of the numbers is in British pounds. But if we scroll all the way to the bottom to take a quick look at the numbers, we can see that in the last 30 days alone, this brand has gotten roughly 124,754 pounds in revenue, which equals about $157,000, and they have spent 14.7k pounds to achieve this, which is essentially a 8.45x ROAS. Now, on a very broad level, just looking at these numbers, you might be kind of fooled to think that this account is doing great. There's no reason for this brand owner to even be complaining about anything, let alone cold traffic. However, when you start removing the layers from this Google Ads account and this brand one by one, that's when you start to really notice the real problems going on within this brand. Now, on a very broad level, the first moment that I looked at all of these campaigns, I noticed that in total, there's 18 different campaigns running. Now, if you are one of my OG followers, you know that I absolutely love taking the simplest possible approach. This means having a small amount of campaigns. This means having a Google Ads strategy based around certain campaigns only, so you don't have too much volume within your ad account and you don't confuse the algorithm as a result. So seeing these 18 different campaigns, it's a little bit of a shock to me, and it kind of gives me the idea that whoever is handling the Google Ads account for this brand right here, which is another agency, is potentially trying to overcompensate for the lack of results. If we take a closer look at these campaigns, we can see that the top 2 to maybe even top 5 campaigns have spent the most amount of money. It looks like this is a Performance Max campaign along with this one as well, and this one too. So it's 3 different Performance Max campaigns, and what I try to understand first and foremost is how good is the conversion tracking for this brand. And the way to figure that out, it's fairly simple. If you just uncheck these boxes, going over to segments, conversions, and conversion action, this lets you know how many different conversion tracking tags are firing for each of these given campaigns. And if we look right here, it looks like there's only one conversion tracking action firing, which is a great thing and exactly what we want to be seeing. But from there, now we move on a little bit deeper to understand what the Google Ads strategy is. And that's always my next step after figuring out how strong is the foundation in terms of conversion tracking. In this situation, what I see when I go inside this Performance Max campaign is there is some sort of artificial intelligence in use for this campaign right here. And it's because it just says that literally in the name of the campaign, it says feed plus AI, which means artificial intelligence. Now, I'm not too sure what kind of artificial intelligence is getting used here. However, in general, one key rule to keep in mind is you don't want to be necessarily adding in arbitrary artificial intelligence softwares or scripts unless absolutely necessary and unless you're trying to automate a task you do every single day, because the real scale and the real success with Google Ads you'll always find comes from a customized approach, from a customized strategy. So just putting in artificial intelligence, that's really not a right way to go about these things. That's really not the right way to make things happen. And that's what we see happening here. Now, if we look at the overall change history, we can see majority of the changes getting done is just for the target ROAS or the budget. That's essentially it, which means there's nothing too crazy going on within this Performance Max campaign. What I'm usually trying to understand when I'm looking at the campaigns is what is the strategy in place. Here, it looks like both of these Performance Max campaigns, essentially, if we go to asset groups, it looks like both of these have the same exact products. However, the only difference here is this Performance Max has a bunch of assets added to it, which is the only major difference. So what this approach here is essentially testing one Performance Max campaign against another with the same products, but then having one be feed only and then another be assets only. Now that's that for the Performance Max campaigns. There's really no other very crazy strategy here. It's basically asset groups versus no asset groups, and then this third Performance Max campaign, it looks like it's also another feed only campaign with all of the products in here. So already right off the bat, I see that the same products are eligible in all three of these different campaigns, which is definitely not the right approach to go about things, because what happens is anytime you have the same product in multiple smart bidding based campaigns on an internal level, there's something called internal bidding which starts to happen, which essentially means one campaign will start to bid against another within the auctions simply because it's a robot. It's not a real human being sitting in Google's headquarters understanding that these products that are the same within each of these smart bidding campaigns are the same exact product. And as you scale, as you increase budgets, this becomes a very big problem, and this is going to increase the average cost per link clicks, which seems to be increasing here because it's already very high, almost £1 per link click, which in the fashion industry for this specific niche, it's a little bit high. But the craziest thing I saw here is if we take a closer look at the campaigns that are running, all of those 18 I mentioned, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just filter out those campaigns, and I'm going to only filter out those campaigns based on the keyword brand, because I want to see all the campaigns in here which are going after branded traffic. And this is one of the biggest problems I'm seeing within this ad account. It might be a similar problem for your ad account as well. When I type in brand, all these campaigns right here come up for that keyword which have the word brand in it. And if we scroll all the way down, we can see branded campaigns are spending roughly 4.2k pounds in the last 30 days. That might be what it's spending on a monthly basis. However, here's the biggest kind of eye opener, and one reason why this brand owner is complaining about cold traffic. 95.6k revenue pounds came from branded traffic. That means if we do a little bit of math right here, we open up a calculator, out of 124,754 pounds, 95,685 came from branded traffic, which means only in the last 30 days, this brand has barely generated 29,000 pounds in revenue. And everything else is from branded traffic. This is a very concerning thing to see, because that means this entire ad account is essentially driven by these branded campaigns. These numbers that they see right here, these ROAS values, they're getting inflated by these branded campaigns. I mean, the ROAS for these branded campaigns is at 22x, which is why this is such a high level ROAS for this entire ad account. This alone is going to stop your brand from scaling, especially if your brand also relies heavily on branded traffic. I know for this brand, a lot of their traffic comes from Facebook ads, TikTok ads, etc., because they're very active on these other platforms. And as a result, this agency right here is essentially just pushing branded traffic campaigns to boost up their revenue, to boost up their results, so everything looks better than it really is. This is a very bad thing, and oftentimes this is what I see happening with so many ad accounts that I audit under my Google Ads agency or marketing. Which, by the way, if you run a brand doing $1 million a year, you need extra help scaling your brand to the next level, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me to see essentially how we can work together and make that happen. So that's essentially one of the first things I would do for this brand like this, where we would kind of just destroy either all of this ad spend for the branded traffic, make it less than £5 per day for all of it, to either lower the level of revenue that's coming from branded search, or we would potentially get rid of a lot of these campaigns and just focus on cold traffic campaigns in these different countries that this brand is targeting. But that's the major problem here. Everything else in terms of the Performance Max campaigns is also a very basic approach. I again believe in simplicity. So instead of testing these 3 different Performance Max campaigns out with the same exact products, I would rather group them together and have different asset groups testing different things, of course, one at a time only. But that's kind of the biggest problem here now that we're looking deeper into things, and that's what needs to be fixed for this brand. But what we can conclude from this ad account for your brand as well is to ensure that you have a healthy mix of cold traffic versus retargeting campaigns in play. You want at least a 50-50 mix, or maybe a 60-40 mix, where 60% is cold traffic and 40% is retargeting, for your brand to continue hitting new revenue levels and for your brand to not plateau like this brand has done right here. I mean, at this point, it has pretty much plateaued, and although it seems like it's doing great numbers per day, the reality is 80 to 90% of this is coming from branded traffic, which again, depending on your goals, it's not really a good thing. It's not going to really take the brand to any new levels at all in terms of revenue and in terms of growth. But again, if you run a brand doing $1 million a year, you need extra help scaling your brand to the next level, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me, and let's see if we can potentially work together and make that happen. But check out this video right here on my top 5 Performance Max campaign strategies and tips we're implementing right now in 2024 to scale brands to the very next level.